Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. That took about 3 seconds. In the time it took you to do that, the United States government just borrowed about $210,000. As of the morning that I'm recording this, our national debt is screaming past $38.4 trillion. To put that in perspective, if you wanted to pay that off by spending $1 every single second, it would take you about 1.2 million years. We're currently living through the most expensive fiscal bender in the history of the human race. And the worst part, the people throwing the party, the clowns in Washington, D.C., are acting like they found a magic credit card where the bill never comes due. But you and I both know that in the real world, the bill always comes due with interest. And right now, that interest is costing us $2.6 billion every day. Now, if you turn on cable news, you'll hear very specific narratives. The Democrats will tell you the debt is only a problem because the rich don't pay enough in taxes, their fair share. The rich don't pay their fair share to fund their latest utopian social engineering projects. The MAGA Republicans will tell you the debt is a national emergency right before they vote to increase military spending to fund Trump's new bathtub toy battleship and his silly golden fleet. The truth is they are both lying to you. They are two hands on the same body, and that body is currently pickpocketing your future. Let me pause for a second because I'm curious as I'm talking to you out there, and it's kind of a one-way, that's just the nature of a podcast, right? It's a one-way communications. It can be a little bit more interactive than broadcast in the old days, but could I get you to say in the comments where you're listening or watching from? I'm genuinely curious. I like to know, out of just a real curiosity, where you are throughout the United States or throughout the world. So thanks in advance. I promise I'm not just saying this. I will read every single response that you give me. So anyway, as the recent analysis from the Cato Institute points out, and I'll put a link to the article in the show notes, Congress has proven itself utterly incapable of fiscal discipline. Why? Because borrowing is easy. It's quiet. It doesn't hurt anyone today. If a politician wants to buy your vote, he or she has two choices. He can raise your taxes, which makes you mad. Well, that's not going to buy your vote, right? Because that's going to make you mad. But if they want to give you something, they can fund it by raising your taxes. Or they can give you something and then borrow the money from your future self, which you don't notice right away. So guess which one they pick? We haven't. Now, people have tried to raise taxes, and I think that the taxes are already higher than they should be across the board. I'm not talking about every single minute tax that we have, but generally speaking, not only are our taxes in the U.S. too high, meaning that the government should do less, but they are actually far too complicated. But anyway, we haven't seen a balanced budget since 2001, and even then it was an anomaly. That's 24 years now of living on the margin, 25 years. And both parties treat the Treasury like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet where the check is mailed to a future version of yourself that hasn't even been born yet. So how do we stop the bleeding? In the article, Cato's Romina Boccia and other fiscal experts want to revive the idea of a balanced budget amendment. And, a constitutional amendment is by design a long shot. But think of it this way. A balanced budget amendment provides both handcuffs and political cover. So right now, if a senator says no to a bridge to nowhere or a redundant weapon system, she gets attacked by lobbyists and runs the risk of losing to an extremist in a primary. She has no excuse to say no. A balanced budget amendment gives legislators plausible handcuffs because it legally restricts their ability to run a deficit, and it gives them political cover. They can look at the lobbyists and say, look, I'd love to give you $1 billion for your midnight basketball project, but the Constitution won't let me. But let's be real, and some of you, if you think that's silly, it's funny how time flies, but some of you might be too young to remember that was a real thing in the Clinton administration, they wanted to fund a midnight basketball project, which I thought was silly because, look, if you want to play basketball at midnight, that's great. Do it. You don't need a federal allocation to do that. Just go outside and do it. But also, let's suppose you want to have a parks and recreation program. I'm a tennis player. I love tennis. I'm not any good, but I've played tennis my whole life since I was probably about more or less 9 years old. And back in Columbus, Ohio, Columbus Recreation and Parks Department had this program. And if you were a kid, and in our neighborhood, there were tennis courts close by, which was really cool. You could take a free tennis course for like the youth summer programs. And if you completed the whole course, at the end, they would give you as a gift a brand new tennis racket. And we were kind of poor kids. I mean, we weren't like poor, like awful, but we were, blue collar kids. And getting anything free, it was like, mini Christmas. I guess we would play, I don't know, June, July, August, and in August we'd get the gift or the tennis racket or whatever. And it is a great program. My wife's from Colombia, and in Medellin, they have a program called INDER, INDER, and it's kind of like a similar thing where they have like youth programs or sports programs and leagues for the kids and things like that. But this midnight basketball is kind of silly because like in our neighborhood, and it's after the fact now, this was a Clinton era initiative that I believe in the end did not get funded. But this has no business being done at the federal level. If Columbus, Ohio wants to have summer tennis, or Miami, Florida wants to have soccer, or if in New York they want to have basketball, that's all fine. But the federal government has no business at all being involved in silly initiatives like this. And the Congress under Newt Gingrich at the time was actually right in ridiculing these types of initiatives because they're going to go to some place like Missoula, Montana, and impose midnight basketball where maybe there's no interest in that. They want to play football or something else, or this is just really, it's just too much expensive government. But back to the point, the current U.S. government is spending 14% of its entire budget just on interest, not on modernizing aviation, which we need, modernizing the FAA, the NTSB, and the air traffic control infrastructure, not on interstate highways or bridges, not on defense, just on the rent for the money that we've already spent. That's money being incinerated in a furnace of our own making. But see, here's the scam. You're told that there are only two ways to think. The leftist liberal model, a massive intrusive nanny state that wants to manage every social subculture and tax you into state dependence, or the alt-right MAGA model that, a massive intrusive bully state that wants to enforce a theocratic social order and police the world while pretending to care about small government. One is a corn tortilla and the other is a flour tortilla, but they're both tortillas in the end. There's a better alternative, and let's call it the servant government model. It's the radical idea that the government should be a humble servant and not your daddy, and certainly not a master. A servant government doesn't go looking for dragons to slay in foreign lands. A servant government doesn't care who you marry or who you pray to or if you don't pray, as long as you aren't hurting anyone else. And most importantly, a servant government doesn't spend money it doesn't have. Fiscal discipline isn't mean. It's the ultimate form of social tolerance. When the government inflates the currency and racks up debt, they're devaluing your labor. They're making it harder for a young person to buy a home, to start a business, or even to afford groceries. Not just young people, but old people too. And, middle-aged people. We need to break this rigged duopoly. As long as we keep voting for the lesser of two evils, we're still voting for evil. So look, political pluralism can mean the idea of demanding a government that is non-intrusive but effective. One that focuses on local control, your city, your county, maybe your state, where you actually have a say. I've been in Congress before, but I've been in the state capitol in Ohio. I've been in the governor's chamber, back in the day, multiple times, face to face with the governor. I've met with I have to be honest, in the past, I met with the Speaker of the House in Congress, but I met with the Speaker of the House in Ohio back in the day. Actually, he's a senator now, John Husted. Years ago, I met with him. By the way, he was a varsity trap shooter. I think he went to the University of Dayton. I know he's from Dayton. But years ago, I went shooting with him, and damn, he's so good and I'm a good shot, but it was depressing. It's like people who think they can play baseball, and then you get a real pitcher who throws, and, you realize how out of the league or whatever you are. But it wasn't that bad because I'm a pretty good shot. But Husted is an amazing shot. I feel bad for any criminals he comes up against. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. My point is that you probably have a lot more chance going into your state house, your state capitol building, or meeting with your state governor than you do of meeting with the president if you're a regular person. And because of that, I think that local government should be the priority where you actually have a say. I'm talking about a government where the local government is closest to the people. And nationally, leaving people alone should be a default setting and not some kind of revolutionary act. So the next time you hear a politician promising free stuff, whether it's free health care or a free wall that Mexico's going to pay for, you see, you got lied to. Ask them how many, you got lied to because there's no wall and Mexico didn't pay for anything. Ask them how many seconds of national debt it's going to cost you. Because remember, by the time I finish this sentence, another $70,000 just vanished into the DC void. So people, if someone tells you that if you don't like one party, you have to embrace the other, they're a liar. The system being set up to protect and enshrine only two parties that both really do the same thing, borrow BS and blow away the country's future, is a scam. And you ought to be tired of being fleeced by both of these bands of brigands before it's too late. The Bolshevik Democrats and the MAGA Republicans have created a duopoly and have our country in a stranglehold. And we're going to continually crawl through the same crap if we don't break this duopoly and as citizens enforce political and intellectual plurality. They say people get the government they deserve. So if we sit on our asses and accept that our republic is being replaced by a personality cult, we deserve what's coming. And if we are sick of this and aren't going to take any more, it will be hard at the beginning because the system is rigged, and you cannot expect the two parties who rigged it to rectify it without real outside pressure. I'm Lauren Moss, and this is E Pluribus Unum, out of many one. That's what that means. Thanks for listening. Give us a like and subscribe, please. If you're listening via podcast, please give us a review. 5 stars if you think we deserve it, because it really helps. But what do you think? And the great thing now is that we can have at least some degree of interactivity. So if I'm right, tell me in the comments. And if I'm wrong, tell me why in the comments. I really want to hear from you.
Pluribus unum, with Lauren Moss Dunham. With Lauren Moss Dunham. Pluribus unum.